Welcome to Strategy Talk, where the authors and editors discuss news and events with a splash of history. Our host today is Dan Masterson. Joining him is Jim Dunnigan, well-known military author and the Dean of Wargaming. Also, joining today's show is columnist and author retired Colonel Austin Bay.
Welcome, Austin and Jim. Thought this would be a good time to talk about the Houthis. What's been going on in Yemen has been going on for a long time with Iran's involvement. Obviously, the rebels don't have the wherewithal on their own to do these missile launches and drone launches and like that, because they just don't have the monetary capability. Yemen's one of the poorest countries in the world, and in the Arab, it's one of the poorest Arab countries. Jim, what is their motivation for doing this, and why has it taken the U.S. so long to respond?
Well, the Houthis have been gathering weapons from Iran for over 10 years. They're in northern Yemen. That's where they started out. They've since moved further south. And what Iran wanted them to do was use the missiles, we're talking long-range missiles and shorter-range stuff, to fire on the Saudis. Now, the longer-range missiles could actually hit oil facilities on the Red Sea, the Gulf Coast, that belong to Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates. That was always the deal. They've been shipping in weapons like that for about 10 years now. We've had a naval embargo, as it were, and we've caught some of them. But they have so many, they don't care. They just keep sending them through. They find different ways to smuggle them. They use fishing boats. They use whatever they can get their hands on. And they've been quite successful in piling up the weapons, and now they're using them. And, of course, what they're using them to do is to shut down access to the Suez Canal, forcing ships to go all the way around the bottom, it's Africa, in order to reach the Mediterranean and Europe, or anything in the Atlantic. So that's upset the world economy, as it were. And right now, that's what Iran wants to do. They are under all sorts of sanctions. They figure they have nothing to lose. They might as well make a lot of mischief. And now they're making a lot of mischief. And they use cutouts, or intermediaries, as it were, like the rebel Shia in northern Yemen. These Shia are basically led by a guy named al-Houthi. That's where the Houthi name comes from, who belongs to the Houthi clan, which is simply another branch of Shia Muslims in Yemen. They've been there for a long time. And they've been actually rebelling for a long time, but they never had the firepower to advance very far. Now, they haven't conquered Yemen. Most of Yemen is still controlled by the Yemeni government in Aden, where they had to move because I think 10 years ago, the Houthis did move into the Sana'a, the traditional capital, and the government moved down to Aden, and that's where they still are. Some of the government officials moved to live in Saudi Arabia, where it's safer, because there's Islamic terrorists down in the south, and they attack whoever they can reach. and the most convenient people to go after are the government officials who are using Aden as their temporary capital. So it's a mess that's been a long time in the making. And now the Iranians have basically given the order to fire everything you got, and basically try and shut down the Suez Canal. Which, if they do that, they hurt Egypt, which brings in about $10 billion a year in transit tariff payments to get through the Suez Canal. and they're basically doing whatever they can to screw up world commerce. They're making a point that they're very powerful, and they don't have to do the dirty work themselves. They have others who can do it for them. For example, they have cohorts, as it were, in Lebanon and even in Syria. So the Iranians are basically flexing their muscles and shooting everything in sight.
Austin?
The reason the Houthis are in this is money. The Iranians have it. They have it because they're a petrostate. The other reason is geography. They're on the Bab al-Mandab, which is the strait connecting the Gulf of Aden, but the Indian Ocean to the Red Sea, and ultimately the Suez Canal to the Mediterranean. And the Iranians have the control of the Strait of Hormuz, which is the strait connecting the Persian Gulf, and all the tankers leaving the Arab oil states and Iran as well, sailing into the Indian Ocean, either going to Asia or going to Europe, and they're choke points, classic maritime naval choke points where you can shut off or close the one of the seas. In this case, the Red Sea. Can't quite totally close it, but they can certainly threaten it. And one of the key elements in global sea trade is maritime insurance, marine insurance. And you have to insure the ship, the crew, the cargo, and the rates are very, very carefully calculated, and they're based on really threat from weather and sea conditions, also, but then threat from pirates or terrorist attack. And that's the way the Iranians can have economic effect beyond just playing on the price of oil. And the Houthis fill the bill for shutting down the Red Sea and closing the Strait of Hormuz without having the Iranians going in and actually taking Suez from the Egyptians. It's also war on Israel. The Houthis provide another front for attacking Israel, and you've seen that with them firing ballistic missiles at really in Sinai Peninsula. They hadn't hit Israel, but part of one of their ballistic missiles landed in Egyptian Sinai. They're doing the same thing from the south that essentially Hezbollah does from the north, from Lebanon, opening a proxy front against Israel. Now, the Houthis are also the back door to Iran's other enemy, which is Saudi Arabia. Now, it's across the Persian Gulf. Iran can confront the Saudis straight on, but if they do that, well, it's not as deniable as it is having the Houthis pick on Saudi Arabia's back door, which is what Jim was talking about, the Houthis controlling Sana'a and the Yemeni government now being down south in Aden. That's it's a front against the Saudis, and the Houthis have been willing to do it because they get weapons. They do get to control that northern segment, their area of Yemen, and they have control over really what is the second major port in Yemen, and I've always mispronounced it, but it's like Hodeidah. The other one is Aden itself. It's Hodeidah. I got it right. In fact, no, I've done it, but it's that's been the primary port for bringing in World Food Program food for all the millions starving in Yemen. And I wrote an essay on this 10 years ago about the Houthis ripping off World Food Program food. Strategy page had tons of material on it. When Jim's writing about the war in Yemen, we ship food in there, but it's coming from Canada, the United States, not only, but some of it comes from Ukraine and Russia too. At least it did before the Russo-Ukrainian war. But companies just take it. They take it and they sell it, resell it, use it as a bargaining chip. And it's the UN is aware of it. Iran is aware of it. It's just a complete rip-off operation. So when it's like, why are they into it? They wanted initially control of their own region of Yemen because they're Shias and they're opposed to the Sunnis and they feel that they've been picked on. Grievance. That's 2004 when the grievance comes up. But by 2014, they're a wholly owned Iranian subsidiary. And they are now. There's no way they can take on the Royal Navy and the U.S. Navy and the French Navy without backup from the Iranians. And we have, I'm talking about we, the U.S., but also the West, have acted with quote-unquote restraint against these characters. Well, they're pirates. And, we could, do pinpoint strikes. The U.S. has been doing that really on and off for the last week to 10 days. But there are so many weapon system choices that we have, including dropping standoff JDAMs on every single launch site they've got and turning them into craters by 2,000-pound directed smart bombs. Well, we haven't done that. We can do that. And that is what, when we talk about reestablishing deterrence vis-a-vis some of these Iranian proxies, that's what it's going to take.
So, Jim, what was the motivation for the West taking so long to react?
Well, they hope they can talk their way out of it. Nobody wants to go to war with anybody else. It's expensive. The United States especially has enormous firepower. I believe we have one of those Ohio-class submarines which was converted into a missile submarine. It carries 152 cruise missiles. And so they obviously have a lot of firepower. They've only been used a couple of times, and it works. Most of their cruise missiles launch and they hit the target. But, if you're up against an enemy who is insistent on continuing as long as they can, and they can go on for a while, because they can move their weapons around. We've hit some of them. You fire a missile, and you watch if there's a secondary explosion. That means you've detonated some of their Western weapons on the ground. But often there is no secondary explosion. So, it's whack-a-mole, as it were. But the Iranians have basically convinced the Shia in Yemen to use everything they got, win a glorious victory. Now, the Shia in Yemen basically say they want to hit Israel, but none of these weapons have come anywhere near Israel. So, I mean, Israel at best is, how shall I put it, sniping with Hezbollah in Lebanon. That's another Iran-backed Shia militia. But there's not much action going on up there either. So, basically, it's a lot of war against people who don't really need to be involved in this, but you got to shoot at somebody, and so you shoot at whoever you can. And that's exactly what they're doing. It's ridiculous. But that's the world we live in.
Austin, do you anticipate that the West will increase its attacks?
Now, Dan, do I anticipate it? I think it's absolutely necessary to want attacks on every Houthi site and every suspected Houthis launch site. Jim says it's whack-a-mole and they move things around, but we've got more JDAMs than they have launch sites. And I'm talking about 2,000-pound smart bombs that you can drop standoff distance and just turn the entire area into a series of craters. Eliminate all of them? No. But it's going to knock out Iran's big investment in giving them ballistic missiles and rockets, weapons, and the like. You're going to have to go after some of their seacoast sites, like where they've got their speedboats, and heck, they've still got at least one, it may be two, but that ship that they took, and it's near Hodeida. I saw a picture of it on the web a couple of days ago with new Houthi volunteers training on its deck. It turned it into a propaganda show. Here we took this ship, supposedly carrying weapons, and turns out I think it was carrying some sort of vegetable oil. That's what it was, or it had been. I mean, it was not carrying fuel, but there it is. That ship needs to be recovered. Now, that's a different kind of operation than the one I'm talking about, where you just stand off and litter the desert with 2,000-pound bombs. The recovery operation of that puts SEALs, Marines, Special Forces at a high risk, because who knows what they've done with the ship, probably rigged it with explosives as well. But so that those kind of operations need to be not only they need to be on the table, they need to be planned for. And the other thing is that you need to beef up, that we've begun doing that, beef up escorts for ships moving through the Red Sea right now. And this is as of 3 days ago. It's several major shippers have decided they're going around the Cape of Good Hope down around Africa, because they don't want to put up with the risk to their crews, risk to their cargoes, and the absolute spike in maritime insurance that it takes to go through the Bab el-Mandab and Red Sea now. So you're adding, depending on the type of ship, cargo, and the like, anywhere from 8 to 12 days in shipping time from Indian Ocean to Europe, or Europe to the Indian Ocean. Now, if they've had some issues, and I read a debate about this about 10 days ago. I said, well, wait a minute, they've been backed up at the Suez Canal, and ships have had to sit there and wait because of the number of ships trying to get through the canal. Okay, but they're still adding 5 to 6 days of transit. The big money. The Iranians and the Houthis are responsible for it, and they don't care. This is an exercise in power by Tehran, and they really think they're teaching everybody a lesson. They need to be penalized. They need to be penalized heavily. Their proxies need to be penalized, and ultimately, Iran needs to be penalized. So do I foresee an attack on Iran? No, not with the West as it is now. But I could see it if you really want to go to the trouble. Just to solve the problem, you got to solve the problem in Tehran.
Jim, what are the efforts that are involved with interdicting the supplies coming into Yemen? I mean, is it possible to shut that down?
Well, if you put enough warships there on the patrol off the coast, you can, and that's what's happening now. We didn't always keep, a lot of ships on that blockade, which has been in place for over a decade, because there wasn't that much traffic. They also use fishing boats. I mean, we know what subterfuges they have used in the past, and so we can basically block everything. We can shut it down. But, it's basically closing the barn door after most of the horses have gotten away. So for the moment, I don't think the Iranians were even trying. They've gotten all the weapons they need for the current attacks, and the current attacks are doing lots of damage. The Egyptians are suffering, which pleases the Iranians, and they've basically shown the world that they can basically shut everything down. Now, they're not going to shut down the Persian Gulf, because most of their oil comes out through the Persian Gulf. They need the money. Now they're under sanctions. They have problems, selling it. They sell it at a discount, but that's their major export item. The economy requires it. The Iranian economy is in a lot of trouble. They've been having protests, people on the streets for a couple of years now. There are several issues, not just the economy. People aren't getting enough to eat. The inflation is very high. Unemployment is high. Iranians are not happy, and they're protesting, but that's about all they can do. So the Iranian government is run by clerics. It's a religious dictatorship, as it were. And as far as they're concerned, whatever they do is done in God's name, Allah. Allah commands us to do this, and you can't argue with Allah. So you've got a bunch of fanatics, doing all this, and sure, you can attack them. We've already sanctioned them, but you're not going to stop them overnight. It's going to take a lot of firepower over a period of time to put a dent in their capabilities. And once their capabilities are degraded, there's not a lot they can do. But Iran is basically, because they're run by these clerics, they're not inclined to make any compromises. They have the IRGC, the Islamic Republican Guard Corps, which is their sort of regime protection service. They've killed hundreds of Iranians who continue protesting even when they're ordered to stop. So they're at war with their own people, and so far their government's winning. So it's basically a, how should I put it, a war against everyone. Everyone's fighting everyone, and everybody's losing. And the Iranians don't care because, like I say, they're on a mission from God, and God tells them what to do, and they're doing what God wants them to do. So they must be doing okay. It's insane, but that's the Middle East for you.
Austin, your thoughts on interdiction?
We have had some successes. There's been an international coalition at times trying to enforce an arms embargo. We've had several times Iranian covert shipments have been intercepted. That we've had a little over a year ago, the U.S. Navy made a major bust, and it was lots of small arms. There was some speculation that some of the weapons that were in that trove actually came from Afghanistan, Iran, because there were Western weapons in it, as well as Soviet-type Kalashnikovs. That we've been doing that. Jim's right. You can tighten it. And there are a lot of ships around there, but there's also the great smuggling operations, and they're crooked. You can ship it through Oman if it's tougher for them to do that, because they're going to have to come through a territory that's controlled, Yemen, that's controlled by their opposition, that's controlled by the government, but by the Yemeni government. And you can really choke them on that, but we don't know how many weapons have been stockpiled in Houthi territory. That's why you need to be bombing them and taking out their supplies if we can identify them. And I think we can pretty much do that. They are not that sophisticated in camouflage or they're reducing signatures of where they're electronic signatures. They're sophisticated, but not that sophisticated. Now, I want to add a couple of things. Recent column I did on the Houthis, and this information, by the way, is in strategy pages, files. It's in things that we've written about it. Several times when there have been negotiations about withdrawal or changes, peace negotiations between the Houthis and the government, or the Houthis or the old Saudi and Emirati coalition that was in their fighting. When they want to make a deal, the Houthis say, okay, but you have to free these people. And the people have been Iranian agents, Hezbollah characters, in one case, Hezbollah Lebanese Shia. And it's flat out. This is over 10 years ago they were doing this. They've been acting as Iranian proxies. And Iranian special forces, Al-Quds, are the ones who run their rocket operations. They've got Al-Quds officers in there running selecting the targets. Now, they claim they don't or aren't handling operations, but they are, and they provided the weapons. So you have to get back. What are we going to do to stop that? You have to take it to the Al-Quds force and their headquarters in Iran if you really want to fry up the Houthis. But I don't see that happening.
Well, we'll wrap it up there. Thanks for your comments on this, and we'll see you next time.
In 2 weeks. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.
Bye, guys.